Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Safe to say this was not a video that I was expecting to make today, hence the sort of awkward upload schedule, but nonetheless, here we are. Today, out of the blue, Call of Duty finally fulfilled their promise of addressing and talking and going in detail about their matchmaking system and giving us some insight into skill-based matchmaking. They finally put out a huge statement today detailing their matchmaking system in general. We've been waiting on this for some time. They said, hey, in the weeks following the launch of Season 1, we'll talk about this. Well, we're now like 10 days out from Season 2, and it took them this long to talk about it. But nonetheless, here we are. Call of Duty Matchmaking Intel, an inside look at matchmaking. With the launch of MW3 Season 1 late last year, we committed to a conversation with our community about matchmaking. Today's intel is intended to kick off that dialogue in a brand new beginning for what we hope will be an ongoing conversation about matchmaking, sharing our process and learnings with you to answer questions and concerns we've seen within the community. This blog focuses on how matchmaking works across multiplayer only. Already one thing I'm not loving about this. We will continue the conversation about matchmaking in other modes such as Warzone and ranked play at a later date. I'm holding them to that, and we will talk about it if they don't. For players that have heard the term but aren't familiar with what we're referring to, matchmaking is a multi-factor process to place players on teams with and against each other to compete in online games. The single biggest priority with respect to multiplayer matchmaking is delivering a fun experience to our players. Of course, that focus is really emphasized around the majority player base, that being really casual players, mostly not players who are, watching YouTube a ton or, following them on socials and stuff like that, just people who log on here and there and don't really pay attention to all the noise. While we have for many years of testing and learning as a part of our matchmaking process, we are continually working to deliver the best experience possible. For that reason, we continue to test and look forward to more enhancements to come. We often see the community refer to our matchmaking system as skill-based matchmaking. They're actually directly addressing it. Call of Duty does consider skill, or more specifically player performance, as a component, as do most in the industry. Don't throw shade elsewhere, just focus on you. But skill is not the dominant variable. Okay, we consider and prioritize several factors to create lobbies. So their matchmaking overview. COD Matchmaking is composed of many factors: connection, your time to the match, your skill and performance, your platform, so some input-based or platform-based, voice chat, that's interesting, input device, so mouse or keyboard or controller, recent maps and modes, and playlist diversity. So they're actually tracking a ton. Are you only searching shipment 24/7? Are you only playing domination in your normal modes? If so, you'll probably get shipment domination in that 24/7 playlist, maybe a little bit more. So they actually detail all of this. Connection, obviously ping is king, as the community will attest. Yes, that's how it should be outright. Connection is the most critical and heavily weighted factor. Interesting. Sometimes the servers feel like they say otherwise. Time to match. This factor is the second most critical to the matchmaking process. We all want to spend time playing the game and not waiting for matches to queue, so they're going to connect you to the fastest match possible. The following factors are also critical. Playlist diversity, the number of playlists available for players to choose from. Maps and modes, considering maps you have played recently on, as well as your mode and performance, editable and quick play. Skill and performance, used to give our players a global community with a wide skill range the opportunity to have an impact in every match, whether you're playing on controller or keyboard. The device, PC, or console you're playing on, and then voice chat being enabled or disabled. Every time someone queues up a match, all those are taken into consideration here. Let's get more technical. Measuring connection for matchmaking. Whether you're playing for fun with friends or looking to climb the leaderboards, connection is the most important part. Connection dictates the speed at which the game can transfer information. Okay, we know what that means. Call of Duty's matchmaking process evaluates a metric as well called delta ping, which is the difference in round trip time of the data between your best data center, basically the one closest to you, the server closest to you, and the data center onto which your lobby has been placed. To reiterate, we'll always try and maximize the times we place players in data centers that are closest to them. Call of Duty uses a client-server model to host matches where the time it takes to share information between the player and the data center has an impact on the overall feel of the match, thus really bad hit reg, sort of that inconsistent feeling there. The COD netcode, which we've discussed in the past, works to reduce the effective latency, but cannot completely eliminate it. They also don't run on great servers, to my knowledge. The matchmaking process seeks to reduce the overall amount of latency there. Measuring time to match. Any form of matchmaking takes time. If the wait time in a lobby is excessively long, players typically recycle the process by canceling that. That doesn't make it faster, or so they say. For example, in the Rustment playlist, players often leave lobbies or matches early on hoping to re-queue into shipment. This creates a vacant spot on a team during an early stage of the match, and then that'll prioritize filling up that match yet again, basically. Measuring for skill. Good grief, this is a lengthy paragraph or a segment here. It's multiple paragraphs. While skill is one of the factors, we know the community wants more information on this. Skill is determined based on a player's overall performance, kills, deaths, wins, losses, and more, including mode selection and recent matches as well. This is a fluid measurement that consistently is updating and reacting to your gameplay. Skill is not the only factor in matchmaking. Call of Duty has historically considered player performance among other factors. Our work in this area dates back to as early as Modern Warfare, just the OG, COD 4 back in 2007. Skill is implemented across the video game industry, and we recognize that continuous refinement is required for that. We use player performance to ensure that the disparity between the most skilled player in the lobby and the least skilled is not so vast that players feel their match is a waste of time. So on both sides, if one player is getting stomped, they don't want that. On the other side, if one player is just only pub stomping and dominating, that's boring too. So they have to balance it out, which creates super sweaty lobbies all the time. Our data on player outcomes clearly indicates that the inclusion of skill increases the variety of outcomes experienced by players of all skill levels. So you win some, you lose some, basically. They want that even playing field. In other words, all players are more likely to experience wins and losses more proportionally. They want you at a one win loss, basically. It's like that's the ideal scenario, right? Our data shows that when lower skill players are consistently on the losing end, they're likely to quit matches in progress or stop playing, and they can't have that because that's a lot of the player base. This has an effect on the player pool. A smaller player pool means wait times for matches increase, connections are not as good. This can compound over time to create a spiral effect. Eventually, when only high-skilled players remain because lower players quit out, the result is an ecosystem that is worse overall for everyone. Game data indicates that having some limitations on the disparity of skill across the players in a match makes for a healthier ecosystem. We also understand that many high-skill players want more variety, but often feel like they only get the sweatiest of lobbies. We've heard this feedback clearly and will continue to test and actively explore ways to mitigate that. In addition to today's blog, our tech team is developing a ping and matchmaking white paper for those inclined to get more into the granular information about COD's matchmaking. Stay tuned for that. There's also frequent questions. Does COD consider player engagement as a factor in matchmaking? We do not consider how often or how much you play when determining matchmaking. Interesting. Does COD matchmaking process impact any in-game elements such as hit reg, player visibility, aim assist, damage? No. Stop coping. It's been tested like just ridiculous levels for years. It's not a thing, and you have it directly from them now. Does spending money on COD content such as bundles and battle passes make matches easier? Money spent does not in any way, shape, or form factor in. Does Call of Duty have bots in multiplayer? Call of Duty multiplayer does not use bots as a part of our general matchmaking process. If this changes, we'll let you know. Do partners or content creators get special consideration? Hey, it's me, the content creator. I've never once had special consideration. No, we do not change the matchmaking process based on who owns an account. In specific cases, such as events like Call of Duty Next, we may require, custom things for certain lobbies. However, those only take place in private matches. There's no whitelist to give you easier lobbies. Have you ever considered an opt-in or opt-out system for matchmaking? Our data suggests that splitting the player base with an opt-in, opt-out system will have negative consequences, so they're not going to do that. Have you ever tested removing skill as a consideration? We've run several tests over the years to determine if skill as a consideration being removed makes sense. We'll continue to launch these tests periodically. To date, the data remains consistent with what they said above. They want that even playing field because more people play then. Have you ever considered removing skill in general from certain modes? We've considered this in the past and we'll continue to examine that. That's another non-answer. Thanks for your feedback. So, I mean, they definitely go in on detail here. Hopefully you weren't expecting them to say, hey, we're going to remove skill-based matchmaking. That was never an outcome, and this only confirms what I assumed was going to be the case. It exists, and their matchmaking system exists because this is what makes them the most profitable, because it keeps the most amount of players on for longer periods of time, as they explicitly stated here. I do like that they went in with actually like questions I didn't expect them to recognize. Bots, easier lobbies, skill-based matchmaking, and skill-based hit reg and stuff like that. It's nice that they actually address that stuff. This, though, mostly is what I sort of expected for the most part. It is what it is. That's just how COD is nowadays. That's how a lot of games are going to be nowadays. That is going to wrap things up, though. If you enjoyed this sort of the surprise video here, do me a favor, drop a like on it. And of course, if you're new here, you want to guarantee that every single day you're always up to date with all things going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.